Right. Hey, everybody. This is Yana. It is Thursday, and that means I get to spend a little bit of time hanging out with you, which is super fun. So, we're doing something a little bit different today. I'm going to be actually releasing my tax returns today. So, this is something that at the state Democratic convention, the state Democrats actually put into our platform. There was a call for federal candidates to release 5 years of our tax returns. And so I am doing that today. I'm also going to be releasing a summary, which is not very complicated, of my net worth. There was this really bizarre rumor floating around a while ago that I was like secretly a millionaire. Y'all need to get over that, and perhaps this Facebook Live session will help with that some. So I encourage folks to look at my tax returns and uh, ask for other candidates to release theirs, and to also look at another place where there's a bunch of important information, which is a website called opensecrets.org. And that's where you can see where people's campaign financing is coming from. Um, so it will tell you both about self-funding, like who can just put thousands of dollars of their own money into their campaigns and therefore have kind of an unfair advantage over those of us who can't, as well as where those donations are coming from. You need to know who your representatives are going to answer to and be loyal to. Is that themselves? Is that massive corporations? Or is it actually the people? So end of quarter reporting will be out in mid-July. So you can check there for all of the new candidates. A whole bunch of people hadn't actually declared their candidacy before the end of March. So at the end of March ended the first quarter, and then you have to report all of like this breakdown of where your money came from and how much money you've brought in, how much money you have sitting in the bank, to the Federal Elections Commission each quarter. And so right now, most of the candidates actually hadn't declared before the end of the last quarter, but by around July 15th, we should actually be able to access bunch more information. In the meantime, though, we did a little bit of looking into it, and between the opensecrets.org website and the Federal Elections Commission, this was the amount of money that people had put into their own campaigns for the U.S. Senate race. Republican Josh Wheeler had put in $1,950. Democrat Marav Ben David had put in $7,500. Republican Brian Miller had put in $8,303, which is a very precise number. Brian, I suspect you're actually doing your accounting really well. Nice job. Republican Robert Short had put in $105,285 of his own money. And Republican Cynthia Lummis is the winner in the Let's Try to Buy a Senate Seat race. She has put in $590,000 of her own money into her Senate seat. Now, mine right now on Open Secret says zero self-financing, which is actually a little bit off. I think we've put in about $300 as of the end of the quarter that we're in right now. So there's no listings for a whole bunch of people, but we do know from statements that have come from both Rex Wild and Ken Kasner that they basically just self-finance when they run for office, and they have run before, so I'm going to trust them that they know their patterns with that. So why is all of this important? So wealthy people don't get what it's like for those of us who struggle to get by. A huge percentage of what's coming out of DC is out of touch garbage when it comes to class. That won't change until we get people who are actually living the realities of the economy in office. So I have worked jobs in the last few years that paid $9.50 to $11 an hour. I know that these are not living wages because I have tried. We will continue to see people patting themselves on the back like Nathan Went is doing right now for proposing a $10 an hour minimum wage, which is not actually going to help if we continue to have people who are wealthy run for office and win. The second reason is that there's this tendency to protect your economic privilege and advantages. So we saw senators in both parties use the information about coronavirus to benefit themselves and do nothing in terms of sounding the alarm for early responses or getting needed aid into our hospitals and communities. But you know what? I don't really have anything to protect. I can ask for what we actually need because I don't have anything to lose. And the 99% of us who make up most of the population have a huge amount to gain. So if they pay you, you've usually been bought. None of my money has come from PACs or corporations. My average donation is around $23, and we have had 1,035 donations in the last year that have come just through Act Blue. The only people who have my loyalty are the people, mostly poor and working class people, who have stretched to make donations to support this campaign. So, what is in the documents that I am about to release? They're going to go into the chat, and then they'll actually be pinned once Pride Month is over. I will take down the Pride post that is pinned and put my tax returns up for a couple weeks so that you can find them easily. So let me walk through what are the documents that are about to be released. So it is 5 years of my federal tax returns. So that is 2015 to 2019. And then there's also a net worth summary. As you can see, it is not very complicated. And then there's also another little finances summary, and that summarizes my tax returns and my net worth. And so I'm just going to tell you what this is in case you're not somebody who's going to go look at the documents, but you want to know. For the sake of transparency, here's what those tax returns say. So in 2015, I filed single, and my adjusted gross income was $15,029. 2016, filed single, adjusted gross income. This was my big year, $28,891. Now, 2017 through 2019, I filed jointly with my husband, Matt Stannard. And 2017 was our big year, $59,116 adjusted gross income between the two of us. 2018, $43,762. 2019, $32,158. Now, the last 2 years have been less because if you dig into our tax returns, you will see we had big business losses. So my community that I live in is organized as an LLC. And we bought one of the oldest still standing buildings in the state of Wyoming in July of 2018, so just about 2 years ago. And we bought a really old house. It was built in 1878. And restoring an old house, even if you're not doing like restoration, like back to historical levels, but just restoring what we're having to do, which is just getting things functional, is incredibly expensive. And so we did have more income than that, but we also had a heck of a lot of that go out the door. And because we're organized as an LLC, that shows up on our personal taxes. So what else you will find if you dig into my taxes, I do own a second home. So I collectively own, I'm part of a collective that owns the home here. I still own a home in Missouri with my ex-husband that has been on the market for 4.5 years and is still sitting there. And mostly it's just a financial drain on us. But technically speaking, yes, I co-own 2 homes. You will also see who I have worked for the last few years. You can actually learn a lot about people by like pouring through their tax returns. So you will see that I have worked for 4 different nonprofit organizations in the last 5 years. I was the executive director of the Center for Sustainable and Cooperative Culture in Missouri. I was there for about 3.5 years. And then as I was transferring out of that, there was a little bit of overlap where I was also the executive director of a national nonprofit called Commonomics USA, economic justice organization. Also had worked for Surge, which is showing up for racial justice, for about a year. That shows up on my tax returns as the Social Good Fund because they have a fiscal sponsor. And then you'll also see income for me for the Fellowship for Intentional Community that is now called the Foundation for Intentional Community. And this is an organization that I've been either on the board of directors for or on staff for, kind of bouncing between those two roles for about 18 years. And so you'll see a little bit of income from FIC during that time. I also worked for two small Laramie businesses, the Earth, Wind, and Fire Gallery downtown and Big Hollow Cooperative. You will see freelance income for me from work that I do with communities, worker owned cooperatives, and nonprofits in various parts of the country. I do work with them around social dynamics and do a little bit of like human resources consulting. That's actually like the biggest part of my income has come from that work over the last 5 years. You'll see a little bit of income from book royalties for sales of my book, Together Resilient. And then you'll see in the last 2 years the paperwork for the LLC partnership. So, until this may seem silly to be like, here's my tax returns and here's what's in it. But until we get big money out of our elections, it still matters a lot who people are, where their money is coming from personally, what their business practices are, where they're putting their life energy. And it matters in terms of where people's donations are coming from. And so I really encourage you to go ahead and, like I say, look at my tax returns, confirm all of that information that I just gave you about who I am and where my money is coming from, and also put pressure on other candidates to also release their tax returns. So I'm going to close this out. Speaking of the FEC, they really want you to know who has paid for this Facebook Live today. That is paid for by Yana for WYO. That is also the name that we are registered under with the FEC. And I hope folks go ahead and check it out and get really good information about who is doing what in this election. Thanks.